Welcome, viewers. This is your host and presenter of the Healthy Living Show, Dr. Uzo. Today, we're going to talk about a very, very important health challenge, health issue, a disorder, the so-called silent killer called high blood pressure. Hypertension is another name. We want to talk about the definition or description and the myths of high blood pressure, the false ideas, the half truths, the rumors, and not so scientific assertions or assumptions about high blood pressure. That's what I call myths. But first, let's start with definition, because if we define it, we confine it. We have to describe it, to explain it, to espouse it. Now, what is high blood pressure? High blood pressure is the tension or force the blood exerts on the walls of arteries while the heart is pumping blood to the general circulation. The blood pressure is measured in pressures of mercury. And because of that, it's a range. The up one, when the heart is beating to pump blood, called systolic. And then when the the heart relaxes in between beats, in between the pumping of blood in general circulation, and we call that one diastolic. So when the blood pressure measurement or reading is written, the top is called systolic, is the big one, and the lower one, which is the lower pressure, is diastolic. The normal blood pressure range is 120/80. Anything above 120/80 is described as high blood pressure or abnormal blood pressure. So anything also below 90/60 in normal adults is described as hypotension or low blood pressure. So it's the other extreme. But today we are considering high blood pressure or hypertension, which is what we call the silent killer. You can't overemphasize that enough. Now, I want to dismiss some myths, half-truths, rumors, and innuendos about high blood pressure. Number one, high blood pressure is not really a disease as much as it is a disorder. Let me explain so that you won't complain. The first thing about blood pressure is that under normal circumstances, the blood pressure fluctuates with activity, with tension, anger, irritability, work, exercise. Intermittently, the blood pressure, goes up and down. That's not a problem. But when you are relaxed and normal, your blood pressure is supposed to be normal, because it regulates or is a vital sign of vibrant or optimum health. Other signs that we use to measure your health is, of course, your temperature, your pulse rate, and your respiration. In Western medicine, we call it vital signs. So when your blood pressure malfunction or becomes high, everything begins to go down. Your kidney can have problems. Your glands can have problems. Your vessels, which is central in circulation, will have problems. Even your brain can have problems. Your vessel can balloon and all that. And don't forget that blood feeds every cell, every organ, every tissue, every gland, and all your system. So high blood pressure is not just a circulatory disease. It's a systemic problem. It involves every part of your body, from your brain to your toes, even up to the tips of your finger, and all the organs and glands in between are involved. So that's why it's not a localized problem. It's a systemic problem. So in the cure, which is important to us, every organ has to be toned or tuned up or regularized or balanced for you to achieve normal blood pressure or normal blood pressure range, because it's a range. So now, I want us to go quickly to the myths of blood pressure. And there are 7 very important myths of high blood pressure. Number 1, don't let doctors untrained in nutrition, untrained in natural remedies to tell you that diet has nothing to do with your blood pressure, or that your blood pressure is genetic and synthetic chemicalized harmful drugs can fix it. No. If you are born normal, you are normal. If you develop blood pressure in your 50s or 30s or 40s, it's not because of genetics. Yes, genetics has its role, but this is not where genetics plays a role. Genetics plays a role in secondary blood pressures, not essential high blood pressure, which is 95% of the time. With things like pheochromocytoma or, polycystic kidney disease. Those are, or coarctation of aorta. Those are the secondary causes of high blood pressure. We don't worry about that. We worry about the biggie, the essential high blood pressure. The thing is that doctors will tell you that essentially they do not know the cause of blood pressure. In fact, they call the word idiopathic. I always laugh because one patient made a fun of it. He came back home after visiting the doctor, and then he said, what was wrong? They asked him, what was wrong with you? They said, well, the doctor said, I have high blood, that he has high blood pressure because I don't. And then he said, then what was the cause? Were you thinking? Were you stressed out? What was the problem? And he said, the doctor said, basically, he does not know. And then he told him what the doctor said, that the doctor said that his blood pressure is idiopathic. Well, his friend made fun of it and said, well, idiopathic, well, I can figure that out. Idiopathic means the doctor maybe is an idiot, and then pathic means that the patient is pathetic. So that's the fun thing. And I just related this story to dismiss the fact that blood pressure is caused by improper diet, deficiency, of course, including deficiency of magnesium, deficiency of things like vitamin D, and also dirty colon and dirty system, toxins actually, which I call toxic acidic waste buildup in the body. Why? Because over the years, acidic waste or toxins tend to accumulate. We say that toxins tend to bioaccumulate. So if you don't have blood pressure issues in your teens, in your 20s, or in your 30s, all of a sudden you develop it in your 40s. It didn't start that day. It's been accumulating, it's been brewing, it's been building up. And that's why we say toxins is number 1 biggie. We call it high blood acid or high blood acidic waste, causing or being set up by low-grade systemic inflammation. That is what set people up for high blood pressure, including toothache, because it's infective. Anything that comes to your mouth enters through your general circulation. We'll deal with causes later, but let's go right to the myth that we always hear about blood pressure. Number 1, blood pressure is not genetic. I cannot overemphasize this. Blood pressure is because of lifestyle. It's because of nutrient depletion, because of too much toxins in our water and in our drink, including pollution by heavy metals like lead and cadmium. They can create blood pressure problem, especially down the road. It's not genetics, and let not any doctor insult your intelligence to tell you that your blood pressure is because of genetics and that drugs can fix it. That is not true. And that is not a fact. It's a myth. So don't buy it. When you change your lifestyle, you can change or bring your blood pressure back to normal range. Number 2, don't let the doctor tell you that drugs can fix your blood pressure. To be honest with you, or to tell you the gospel truth, or should I say the naked truth, you don't control blood pressure. You cure blood pressure. You don't medicate. You eradicate. You don't treat symptoms of blood pressure. By the way, majority of the time, blood pressure doesn't have symptoms. That's why it's a silent killer. You don't treat the symptoms like headache, like dizziness, like passing out, like, lightheadedness, or any of the complications. You don't try to suppress symptoms. You identify and treat the root cause of blood pressure challenges. So, drugs actually are part of the problem. Because 9 times out of 10, you can control, actually cure or reverse high blood pressure through dietary changes or lifestyle changes. So don't buy anything that the doctor will tell you that you're going to take drugs for the rest of your life. Yes, I can eat food for the rest of my life if I'm not fasting. But I cannot take drugs for the rest of my life. That's a bondage. And don't buy that. That drug is actually part of the problem and not part of the solution. Nearly always, we don't need drugs. Let me even tell you about pilots. Do you know when pilots develop high blood pressure, that they always ask to go and control it or cure it by diet and natural means alone? Otherwise, they lose their job. Why? Because right there in mid-air, right in the sky, they can get dizzy and take the life of the rest of the crew. So it then means that the aviation people are even much more knowledgeable and much more intelligent in terms of thinking than doctors. They know that you can actually cure blood pressure, not by medication, which even create more problems than using natural means. So another reason or another myth or reason we'll consider today that is not true or false or partial truth is that cholesterol, this is a big one, is the cause of high blood pressure. I see people worry a lot about cholesterol and high cholesterol. Cholesterol is not as important in blood pressure mechanism of formation as inflammation. And by the way, it's not just the cholesterol, it's the cholesterol ratio. It's the type of cholesterol or the subtype or the subgroup. I'll give you an example. If you have the good cholesterol, the HDL, meaning high density lipoprotein, if you have it above 50, your blood pressure or heart disease or heart attack will be better, will be in normal range. The reason is that they will take cholesterol and take it back to the liver for processing. The bad cholesterol, LDL, will take cholesterol from the liver and deposit it in your vessels where they think is safer, or to push it away from vital organ to save you or to preserve your other organs, because the first law of nature is self-preservation. So the myth about cholesterol is a hoax as a cause of high blood pressure. So don't worry too much about cholesterol, because your cholesterol is made, actually several or large quantity rather of your cholesterol is made by the liver. 80% of the time is not through the diet. Even the cholesterol control drugs like Lipitor Crestor blocks HMG-CoA, the rate limiting enzyme for producing cholesterol in the liver. So if your liver is good, if your liver is efficient, if your liver is vibrant and working in top gear, you don't worry about cholesterol. Most often people come to me and say, oh, doctor said my cholesterol is high, and they are worried. I say, don't worry about that. We know what to do. We can control it by diet. Don't take harmful synthetic drugs. You know why I am mentioning this is because Lipitor has grossed up to 10 billion a year So if the cholesterol hoax or scare is not working, that drug would not be making such money, much more than any other drug on earth. Anti-cholesterol drugs by Pfizer has made 10 billion. Before it used to be 5 billion. Now it has crossed $10 billion a year. Yet people can control cholesterol by eating spinach or eating or putting in their diet lecithin or using green drinks or drinking their smoothie like red sorrel. But people don't do it. They rather use prescription. And that's what affects people's blood pressure indirectly through the liver, not cholesterol. We worry about the liver much more than anything else than cholesterol. So it's actually inflammation of LDL rather that causes plaque buildup and raises blood pressure. What do I mean by that? In an acidic environment, which causes burning or inflammation, because acidic waste creates inflammation or oxidative stress. When it creates oxidative stress, cholesterol will be oxidized, and when it's oxidized, it becomes a toxin, and the body will store it away in the blood vessels. And when it stores it away in the blood vessels, calcium, other debris, heavy metals will percolate together, and they become or form plaques we call atherosclerosis, which can contribute to blood pressure or elevation of blood pressure we call hypertension. Another myth is that blood pressure is not something you can actually control with diuretics, the so-called water pill. The reason is that I'm mentioning diet pill precisely because that is the first line treatment when you go to the hospital. Water pill doesn't just make you lose potassium, of which the doctors will give you slow K. Side effect caused by one drug will be replaced or counteracted with another drug, creating more complexity and more trouble and more disease. The body with water pills, which include hydrochlorothiazide, Lexis, or furosemide, what happens is that you don't lose just potassium alone. You also lose things like magnesium, zinc, selenium, chromium, and other metals. And it's not, this is beautiful, because when they begin to lose, when you begin to lose potassium, you will also lose these essentials. And this essential actually help you to package, help you to produce and release insulin. So one of the side effects of this blood pressure medication, especially the water pills, is diabetes or pre-diabetes. They raise blood sugar. And that bad thing they do is that they will also cause build-up of atheroma, thromboembolism. You can release these plaques because it congeals the blood. The blood viscosity becomes high. And when the blood becomes high, the blood, instead of flowing like water, will now flow like ketchup or flow like yogurt. Instead of flowing like, and that will slow down and increase the pressure of the heart. And when the heart pressure increases, that means there is more resistance created by sluggish blood. The blood will not flow. People can have stroke, they can have heart failure, they can have brain failure, they can have heart disease, they can have cardiomyopathy, they can even have ischemic pain in their extremities because the water has been eliminated by water pills and it created more complications. Another myth that we consider here is that blood pressure is not generic. Everybody cannot have blood pressure. Everybody doesn't have blood pressure. Blood pressure is reported in 75%, or rather 75 million Americans, of more than nearly half of adult population have blood pressure problem. Not everybody. If you eat right, you will not have blood pressure. The Chinese call it yang imbalance. Why is it yang imbalance? Because when you eat a lot of cooked food, when you eat a lot of processed fragmented food, when you eat a lot of food with chemicals or preservatives, including soft drinks and sugars, what happens is that the body will begin to build a lot of acid, high blood acid, and you begin to have more inflammation. The energy of the body becomes a flame. The internal heat of the body is turned up. It's like the thermostat will not regulate the blood pressure because of too much heat. I call it heat within or fire within. Why? Because the yin or energy that comes from raw, uncooked, living, vibrant whole food is not there. This includes your fruit and vegetable. This includes your alkaline minerals like calcium, potassium, chromium, things like iron, and of course, you have your magnesium. They are the ones that actually help you balance your blood pressure so that everything will be in normal range. And it will give you a cooling energy that will bring the tension or pressure or the fire within or inflammation to normal range. So the blood pressure is because of imbalance of your yin and yang energy, including your hormones, because of inflammation and high blood, low-grade chronic systemic acidic waste in the blood due to diet. Because people eat so much acidic food, much more than the cooling food that is from raw, unpasteurized, uncooked, living food that we should be eating. At least half and half will balance your blood pressure. But the normal, by right, supposed to be 80% alkaline and 20% acidic food. Now let's go again to another myth of blood pressure. That controlling blood pressure will eliminate the complications of high blood pressure. If you control blood pressure with medication, it's not going to eliminate the complication of high blood pressure. Things like pain, chronic pain, things like stroke, which is a biggie, things like, or even Alzheimer's disease, multi-infarct dementia, headaches. It will not improve things like cancer. It will not improve things like other complications of blood pressure like kidney disease or kidney failure or glomerulonephritis or kidney leaking proteins in urine. We call it nephrotic syndrome. They cannot do that for you. So all the complications of high blood pressure cannot be controlled by drug, even if your blood pressure reading are normal or within normal range. That's why controlling with drug does not eliminate it. It will control it. Any day you stop taking the medication, there's a rebound. The blood pressure comes back with a revenge. So medication is part of the problem. Another myth of high blood pressure is that it is not idiopathic. We cannot say this enough. High blood pressure has a curse. And the curse is dietary and lifestyle, including smoking, including eating anyhow, dietary discretion, indiscretion, and toxins. We can't overemphasize that. Now, high blood pressure does not discriminate. We even begin to see people, teenagers, having high blood pressure. Before, we used to think that blood pressure is a problem of older people or problem of aging. No. Your blood pressure doesn't have to rise with age. In fact, the more I age, the better my blood pressure. And people are surprised. They say, how can it be? Because my doctor told me that as you age, your blood pressure, begin to rise. And I say, no. Because if you know what to do, your blood pressure is supposed to remain normal up to 120 years. Yes. But when people get to 40 and so on, they start panicking because the drug is creating much more problem. Another thing I want to say is that you don't need to lower your blood pressure if you're obese to cure your blood pressure. People always think that people who are skinny should have low cholesterol or low blood pressure. But it is the state of your liver, your state of metabolism, your thyroid, and your state of overall health that affect your blood pressure. Not whether you're skinny or thin or whether you're a child or an adult. The reason is because a lot of people will always tell you to lose weight before you control your blood pressure or before you cure your blood pressure. You don't need to lose weight to cure blood pressure. However, losing weight will help with your blood pressure cure. I've seen skinny, very skinny people develop high blood pressure because they don't know how to eat right, because their body is full of toxins, because they don't control their lifestyle, including stress, smoking, eating junk food, eating processed food, eating chemicals, drinking, even tap water, because lead can also raise blood pressure, which is a heavy metal. The myth that doctors are missing is toothache. And I will say this before I summarize. If you have toothache and people, at least, let me give you the statistical estimate. 4 out of every 5 people above the age of 40 have problem with their teeth, their gum, their periodontal tissues, and their mouth. This is the source of many blood pressure problems. My sister called me the other time and told me that the medications are recommended for her, the dietary supplements and changes are recommended for her, did not work. I asked her, I said, do you have toothache? Our people don't go to dentists that often. Not like other people. Usually. Most Africans, they don't visit dentists. And I guess one of the reasons is that traditionally used to chewing stick, which is even better than toothpaste and brushes. And she downplayed it. I would have told her, well, I'm not a dentist. Because I knew that something was dragging down her immune system. I said, get your teeth checked. And do you know, she already have one of her teeth decaying right inside. Because bacteria is a product of decay. And anything that you have in your mouth, holes, filings, dentures, even food particles, gum disease, periodontal disease, anything that happens to your mouth can leak into your general circulation and can raise blood pressure through inflammation. In fact, toothache can cause anything. It can make people when people have blood pressure, the first thing I ask them, is your teeth cracked? Do you have gum disease? Even bleeding, or rather bleeding gums. The so-called pinky toothbrush. That shows you don't have vitamin C. Your blood vessel is leaky. And when it's leaky, the same thing happens in your internal blood vessels, including your capillaries. Anything that happens in your teeth and gum will affect everything. So this is also a myth because doctors are ignoring it. Saying, oh, they are not dentists. But the body is one. What affects one area affects the other. And if you don't control your teeth or fix your teeth, you might end up having blood pressure and the doctor may not even know why and how, and they will be pouring medications on you which do not help, which will even complicate your case. Very important. Now let's all summarize, wrap it up together and put it all together. That first of all, blood pressure is not genetic. Blood pressure is not generic. Blood pressure is not because you are old. That blood pressure is a simple nutritional deficiency, toxemia, wrong eating, and lifestyle. That's what creates blood pressure. And that blood pressure can happen both in big or small, fat and slim or trim. Blood pressure can even happen in people who think they are vegetarians or who eat normally without eating raw or unpasteurized food, including sugar. Because blood sugar or high blood sugar create acidity and inflammation, and it can create blood pressure, which a lot of people don't link together. Our inability to link this or know the cause instead of giving medication by doctors can cause the blood pressure. So don't let any doctor deceive you or tell you that medication can cure it. It will never cure it. Or tell you that you take medication for the rest of your life. It's a myth. No, refuse it and control or cure your blood pressure naturally. And also, high blood pressure is not a local disease or systemic disease. High blood pressure is a systemic disease from your head to your toe. Any malformation of the organs or glands or tissue, including your circulation and bloodstream viscosity or the thickness of the blood, can affect blood pressure, including the liver, regulating the rest of the organs and your blood pressure as a filter of the body. We also dissolved, dismissed, and then, eliminated the cholesterol myth that blood pressure is not because of high cholesterol. In fact, President Clinton had normal blood cholesterol and still suffer from heart attack and blood pressure. The reason is that even Eskimos have high cholesterol, and yet they don't suffer high blood pressure as much as we do here. The reason is that inflammation or oxidized cholesterol and not total cholesterol is the culprit. Again, we also dismiss the myth that the blood pressure is not generic. Everybody who eats right or who eats raw, or at least 50-50, will not develop blood pressure. And that you don't need the doctor. Even though the doctors are necessary when it comes to the complication, you don't need the doctor to be whole and hearty. That the first way to regulate your blood pressure is not to take medication, but to change your diet and lifestyle. So this is the 7 myths of high blood pressure. And we have dismissed the myths, and we are saying that not only is it a myth and half truth, that we can cure blood pressure without medication. Thank you for listening. See you. We'll continue this series on blood pressure in the next episode. And stay tuned and don't go away. Stay with us and always come back to check. Thank you, Omega Studio, for this show. And this is your host and presenter, Dr. Uzo. God bless. See you next time. Bye-bye.